Good afternoon, I'm Savannah Kelly. Welcome to APTN National News. A remote First Nation in northern Manitoba is reeling from the effects of hydroelectricity projects in their territory. York Factory First Nation chief says low waters have rendered their ferry inoperable, cutting off their main access to and from the community. Sav Jonesa has the details.
Daryl Wastesakut says he's heard discussions of an all-weather road being built in his community since he was a young boy. Now chief of York Factory First Nation, he says they can't wait any longer as wildfires loom and escape options dwindle.
The government says they don't have money. Canada always says we got to find the money, and yet they send money overseas to other countries that are going through crisis. Like, what about the crisis in your backyard?
York Factory First Nation is currently under a self-declared state of emergency. The thick smoke from a wildfire about a dozen kilometers away makes potential evacuation by air travel unreliable. The community is suffering from dangerously low water levels and downed phone lines. The Nelson River is so shallow, their only way in and out of the community is unable to sail the rock bottom.
We're hearing that it's going to go lower, and our ferry, our way out, is just sitting there, can't even move. So we're basically stuck.
2 Manitoba hydroelectricity dams limit water flow in the area. Wastesakut says the dams could release water to fix the issue, but he was told by the province it needs to be held for the winter. He says a 60-kilometer all-weather road would cost $150 million, according to professional estimates. Assembly of Manitoba Chief's Grand Chief Kyra Wilson says she believes the province earns $200 million a year from water fees paid by Manitoba Hydro. She says that money and resource benefits all Manitobans, except those whose land it comes from.
We are asking for an all-weather road, to give access to, children and families to and from the community. And this shouldn't even be an ask. This should be a given, an obligation, because the money that would build that road is coming directly from the lands and resources from the nations.
It's been more than 2 weeks since the ferry became inoperable. Keewatin Tribal Council Grand Chief Walter Wastesakut says people are rationing food as prices more than triple due to shipping costs and supply issues. He says being left in this precarious situation is legislated racism. He says Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew and Prime Minister Mark Carney have reached out about the impacts of hydroelectricity projects.
Both have reached out to our people for a new arrangement. We applaud that. We need action. We need action today. We need it tomorrow. The citizens of northern Manitoba need all-season roads and access to Canada and Manitoba.
Until then, Chief Daryl Wastesakut says York Factory First Nation waits in poverty.
We are the most untapped human resource in the country. They come, other countries come here, they get jobs, but they don't educate us. They don't look to us for filling those gaps. We're made to stay in our First Nations and continue to go through these issues.
Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
We heard from both the province of Manitoba and Manitoba Hydro on this issue. The province says they are, quote, committed to engaging with the community and the federal government on long-term solutions, including the potential for an all-weather road. Manitoba Hydro says they are assisting the community by loaning a boat to York Factory for transportation of people and supplies. APTN News will keep following this story. A foster family caring for 2 Indigenous children says Quebec's youth protection has failed to provide the children with proper services. A complaint was filed to the Quebec Human Rights Commission, which was dismissed days ago, citing immunity for the Director of Youth Protection. The family says this could set a precedent for Jordan's principle to not be recognized in Quebec. Savannah Craig has the story.
He was stabbed 0.5 millimeters from the heart. He was stabbed on the side and he was stabbed in the back.
This father is caring for 2 Indigenous foster children, one of which was stabbed multiple times in 2021.
It was a long, hard battle. We almost lost him. And
APTN News agreed to grant anonymity to the family because the person who committed the crime is unconvicted and still at large. The father, who refers to himself as Robert, fears repercussion for the son if they release their identity.
not too many often you get stabbed 3 times at 14 years old and you ask for help and they tell you no. I mean, so where do you go?
The father says he reached out to the Centre Intégré de Santé et Services Sociaux of Laval for support for his son to seek a psychologist after the stabbing. He says CIS Laval did not provide support and is failing to uphold Jordan's principle. He tried to have his file moved to the local Native Centre.
And I even asked DYP to transfer my case so we can have a social worker with Montreal Native, and they refused.
He says he was unaware of Jordan's principle until he researched how to get further help. Robert says that at no point did CIS Laval notify him about Jordan's principle.
Jordan principle should be all over in government buildings, like DYP and all that. The wall should be plastered with a First Nation help or something. You know, there's nothing. You go there, there's toll-free numbers for suicide lines and stuff like that, your rights, but nothing for the First Nation people.
After posting about his experience online, Foniemi, the executive director for the Centre for Research Action on Race Relations, or CRAR, reached out to Robert. CRAR provides advocacy for victims of discrimination and human rights violations. CRAR then launched a complaint to the Quebec Human Rights and Youth Commission in April 2024, alleging systemic racism.
So we saw that there was basically a systematic and systemic neglect, refusal of services, denial of certain of rights guaranteed under Jordan's principle. So we put together the case.
Recently, the Commission told CRAR it would not be moving forward with the case, citing immunity to the Director of Youth Protection.
In the Youth Protection Act, there's a clause that says that the Director of Youth Protection and the staff of Youth Protection staff cannot be sued during the performance of their duties made in good faith.
Niemi says the Commission says it cannot prove that the Youth Protection acted in bad faith, resulting in the case being dropped.
For us, that's a cop-out on the part of the Commission, and that the Commission does not seem to want to tackle systemic racism in the youth protection system.
APTN News reached out to the Quebec Human Rights and Youth Commission. Their communications advisor said the Commission could not comment on specific cases, but in cases where immunity applies, the Commission simply does not have the legal authority to act, even if a complaint is filed. APTN News also reached out to CIS Laval. We were not provided a statement to our request for comment.
The worst thing is if systemic racism or even intentional racism is not considered an act of gross negligence, and where it's not considered an act of bad faith, then we should be worried about how racism is being dealt with by the system.
The family says they're moving forward to seek accountability by appealing the Commission's decision.
I believe strongly that we will win one day. It might take years, but with pushing the subject, and because it has to come out in public that there's no help for kids, First Nation kids. You know, there's zero help out there within the system of the provincial government. DYP.
Niemi says the situation risks setting a precedent of Jordan's principle not being recognized or upheld by youth protection in Quebec. Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Montreal.
A series of meetings between the Ford government and First Nations on the province's contentious Bill 5 was scheduled to get underway in Toronto on Tuesday. The Economic Development Bill has been the source of multiple protests by First Nations, including when it was passed at Queen's Park this spring. First Nations say it lacks adequate consultation with First Nations and allows the Ontario government to bypass environmental regulations in favor of development. In response, Ontario has set up meetings set to run from July 29th to August 14th, stopping twice in Toronto and once in each of London, Sudbury, and Thunder Bay. The government says the purpose of the meetings is to seek input from First Nations on the creation of special economic zones. We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. We need to step aside for a quick break. Coming up, we'll show you how the Tlingit are celebrating their culture their way in the Yukon. Welcome back to APTN National News. Over 400 young people from across Alberta were on hand for the first day of the 4th annual Youth TP Summit in Edmonton. Hosted by the First Nations Health Consortium, the 2.5-day event provides interactive workshops, cultural teachings, talent shows, and post-secondary school and employment options. The summit offers youth a chance to make new friends, learn, and have fun. It runs until Thursday afternoon.
All across Alberta, we have Indigenous youth. We have each treaty area, Treaty 6, 7, 8 covered in terms of attendance. We have youth that are from Edmonton, so we've got rural and urban youth coming in. Some traveled a long ways, and some live on the north side of Edmonton here.
A 3-day cultural celebration honoring the inland Tlingit took place in southern Yukon over the weekend. Our reporter Sarah Connors was there when the celebration kicked off.
After 2 days on the water, these Tlingit paddlers are coming to shore and car cross. The beating of drums, much like the voices of their ancestors, helping guide them to land. Greeting them is the Carcross-Tagish First Nation, which is hosting this year's Hakustiye celebration about an hour's drive south of Whitehorse. As is tradition, the event kicks off with the arrival of the canoes.
Gunners Cheese, we're glad you had a safe trip. Welcome.
This year, paddlers traveled from just outside of Whitehorse to be here, and the arrival is cause for celebration. Hakustiye means our way in Tlingit. The biannual event is a gathering of the inland Tlingit and rotates between 3 Tlingit nations in the Yukon and northern BC each year. This Tlingit master carver from Alaska is the owner of this red dugout canoe and has paddled to many Hakustiye celebrations. He says the event allows Tlingit relations from all over to reconnect.
A long time ago, our culture went like this, side by side through time. And when the sailing ships showed up, it was a big division. And now we're slowly bringing it back together.
For others, like this youth paddler, it's about being proud of who you are.
We're going back to, what we were. We're just being, who we once were, the Tlingit people, We're just reconnecting with our land and our culture and our ancestors.
In addition to the paddlers, there's plenty to see and do. That includes food, and lots of it, and cultural demonstrations like weaving, moose hide tanning, and bitwood box making.
A lot of bitwood box makers don't share their knowledge, so it's our opportunity to open the door for more younger people to come in and learn and carry on the tradition of bitwood boxes.
This Carcross-Tagish citizen feels celebrations like Hakustiye help keep the culture alive and thriving.
I feel like my spirit is soaring because the world today is just, I don't know, it's a tough world, and there needs to be more events, more gatherings. That's what it's all about, We want our kids to see this and be like, this is the normal. We want to make this the new normal.
For many here, the best way to honor their Tlingit identity is to share it with others, especially the next generation. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Carcross.
To Australia now. The world's first Indigenous comic book universe, the Indigiverse, has its first female superhero, Dreamwalker. She's the brainchild of a team of young First Nations creatives who are preserving culture and language through their work for the future generations. National Indigenous Television's Emma Kellaway reports.
Gunyandi and Mirrawong man Scott Wilson has turned his lifelong love for comic books into a way of celebrating and protecting culture. By creating the world's first Indigenous comic book universe, the Indigiverse.
So the Indigiverse is all about the oldest living cultures inspiring the newest living superheroes and so much more. With the Indigiverse, we have a whole vision and mission to get our stories not only protected and preserved, but celebrated through pop culture mediums across the planet.
A new series introduces the first female superhero, Dreamwalker, a Gunyandi warrior who travels through time and space to protect her people, while also trying to find the child who was taken from her.
We really wanted to focus on her being a strong warrior. She's a woman of action, and she's a defender, and she has such strong conviction.
Inspired by my great-grandmother, actually.
Scott drew inspiration for the story from the matriarchs in his family.
So Mangala is my great-grandmother, and we share within Dreamwalker her story because my grandmother was taken from her. We wanted to share that story and pay homage to all of our families and elders that were affected by the stolen generation.
The series also features Scott's traditional Gunyandi language to ensure it will never be lost.
To be able to share her story, but also share our culture as Gunyandi people, has just been absolutely phenomenal. I believe that now, because of the comic books, we have a way to preserve and protect it forever.
Created by a team of all First Nations creatives, they hope the series will increase Indigenous representation in pop culture media.
So we just hope that being here inspires a lot of other mob to say, hey, we can do it too, and we can be there, and how we can support getting more mob here.
If I had this book when I was a kid, it would have completely changed my life. Like if I had that representation, and it would have probably made me feel a lot more comfortable in my own skin. I wanted to be a part of something that could do that for other people, and other young people, and other First Nations kids.
A comic book honouring the stories of elders and paving the way for the next generation. Emma Kellaway, NITV News.
We now want to tell you about this week's web poll question. Do you think Canada is truly making progress on reconciliation? Yes, no, unsure? You can go to our website, aptnnews.ca/poll to cast your ballot. After the break, we'll tell you how a big country music star made a 15-year-old girl's dream come true in BC. Stay with us. Starting off on the East Coast, 23 in Charlottetown, 26 for St. John's. 15 in Nain, 21 degrees in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Val-d'Or, 19 there, Quebec City, plus 24. Sarnia, 23 degrees there, Peterborough, 27. Kapuskasing, 17, Big Trout Lake, sunshine and 15 degrees. Churchill, 14 there, Norway House, plus 16. Brandon, 19 degrees, Barons River, sunny and 18. Estevan, sunshine, 17 degrees, Saskatoon, plus 18. Stony Rapids, sunny and 16, La Ronge, cloudy and 16 there as well. 33 and sunny for Peace River, 30 in Fort McMurray. Calgary, plus 26, Medicine Hat, 29. Vancouver, sunny and 25, Canal, rainy, 34. Prince George, 32 and rain, Dease Lake, 25 degrees. Mayo, rainy and 21, Rock River, 14 degrees. Wati, 27 degrees there, Fort Simpson, sunny and 33. Paulatuk, rainy and 16, Tuktoyaktuk, plus 8. Nauyat, sunshine and 14 degrees, Baker Lake 18. Clyde River, 9 degrees there, Iqaluit, rainy and plus 12. Now to BC, where a big country star who performed recently in northern BC granted the wish for a 15-year-old girl in a big way. APTN's Tina House has this story.
Touch my hair, nomination, party, let's go party. Yeah, let's go party. Zoom up.
Misty Lane Watson, who is from the Soto First Nation near Moberly Lake, BC, has been singing since she was very young. And now she's 15 years old, and one of her idols is country music star Wynonna Judd. So when Judd recently performed in Fort St. John, BC, she knew she wanted to try to sing with her.
When we got the tickets, I was like, I want to try and sing with her because, and I don't see why she would say, she would say no, but also there was a chance, but I was just like, I'm just going to take that. I'm just going to do it.
And it was this handmade sign that got the attention of superstar Wynonna Judd.
She comes on stage. I didn't hold up my sign the whole time because we were right up front and I didn't want people in the back to get upset with us. So I would just hold it up for 1, 2, 3, and then I'd bring it back down. And then I did that a few times, maybe 3 times. And then she gave me a little nod, kind of wink situation. And I was like, oh my God, is she gonna invite me on stage? And even this lady behind me was she gave you a little nod, and I was like, yeah.
And then the moment came, and Judd asked her to join her to sing her hit song, Turn It Loose.
You want to start it off? Okay, you start it off. Yeah.
It was such a fun experience up there, being on stage in front of all of these people cheering for us. It was awesome. I gifted her a beaded medallion, and she was like, "This is so beautiful, honey, thank you." So I'm glad that she accepted that. Once I got off stage, these people were just "Great job," just giving me compliments on how good I did and whatnot. And then even these girls were wanted to take a picture with me, and I was like, oh my goodness, but yeah. And then we went back to the hotel, and I just felt really good. It was just such an awesome experience,
And for Misty Lane, seeing Wynonna Judd promote her performance with her on TikTok was everything for the 15-year-old who dreams of also being a big singer one day. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
She did it!
And that's an awesome story from Tina House to leave us off this afternoon. That's all the time we have for your afternoon news this Wednesday. I'm Savannah Kelly. From all of us here at APTN National News, Marcy Miigwech, thank you for joining us. I'll be back again in a few hours with a full look at the day's news. Take care, and we'll see you then.
Consider